about big, like the Vietnam Memorial, or these memorials that Sharon Rosenberg put up or made in Vancouver and Montreal and stuff about the Montreal Massacre, where a bunch of women were killed for being feminists specifically. Well, no, they were killed for being women because this guy was angry at feminists. So, and I remember, like, I hearing about it when I was younger on the news and stuff, and I just didn't get it. I'm like, oh, that's really sad, but I didn't think it was more sad than what was going on in other places. Like, I had no context for it. I just thought that sucks, because I'm a woman, and so I tend to relate to other women more in an embodied way. But the sort of like political freak out about this was sort of, I don't know. They went to an engineering school, and there was, I think, 12 of them. I don't remember the exact number right now. I think it was like 12 or 14 or something like that. It was a lot of people. And like the semiotics of the massacre, where they separated the men and the women. There was like vastly fewer women than men, and then the women were executed. And then four guys, and then after he went to that one class, he went to some other classes, and four guys were injured, I guess, probably defending them. And I think the reason that this incident freaks people out so much is because, like, a lot like those planes that went down in 2001, you think, what would I do if I was on that plane and some guy had, like, a fucking box cutter? Like, a lot of my friends were like, fuck, I would have taken that guy down or whatever, and I'm just like, sure you would, dude. But, like, our relationship to authority and our relationship to how to react to people with power over us, or our relationships with violence or incursion or that kind of stuff, is such that we do not have the tools to handle that kind of shit when it comes up, because we're so privileged, and it's our privilege that's fucking us, right? So, like, a guy with a gun's like, I hate women, I want to kill everybody, all the women, so all the guys have to leave, and then the guys leave. The privilege, I think, is pretty thick there, right? Like, they don't know how to deal with violence. Maybe and I'm not judging those guys, for Christ's sake, I'm not at all, because I have never been in a position like that. I probably just shit myself and die. Like, honestly. But maybe if people didn't have this training to obey all the time, and had to deal with, or had to think about how to deal with violence, even if they weren't, like, I don't want everyone to have to deal with violence so that they're good at it. But when confronted, like, well, maybe we're all women then. You know what I mean? Like, well, I'm not leaving. He's like, well, I just want, I told you to leave. I have a gun. I want to kill these women. And I'm like, well, you have to kill me too. Or something like that. Like, if those differentiations weren't so hard, if we were trained to deal with our privilege, if we were trained to think and act collectively, and weren't trained to think and act in accordance to what one powerful guy is yelling at us. You know what I mean? Regardless if they have a gun or a suit or whatever. I don't know, I thought a lot about it, and also, I thought that the outrage wasn't, like, I just remember when those Native women, like, there was, like, 30 of them or something that ended up dead in, Vancouver because of this one guy. Now, this is one guy doing a massive amount of violent, horrible murder to a specific group of women in Vancouver-ish area. And people were alarmed. People were like, oh, a serial killer. But, I mean, are there monuments and academic papers written about it? Like, I'm not sure if the national outrage is sort of, or like horror and, well, what happened? Because I feel like the reason everyone was so upset about this was because of the privileged position, because they saw their daughters, they saw their sisters, and these women that were killed. They don't see that when people don't live like them, and it's fucked up when it's, you know what I mean? Like, I just found there was like a weird disconnect there, like, I didn't see the outrage on the scale that it seemed to me that happened back then with these women. And I'm not trying to compare, like, no one wants to play Oppression Olympics, and I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not saying those people killed, I'm not saying that was acceptable. I just think that it was, like, there was some positioning there that was very specific, and it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable that, like, it was horrible, but it was obviously the result, yes, of a patriarchy, and all that, but of a crazy person. There was a crazy person, and he blamed feminist women and women for whatever was going on with him in his weirdo manifesto 3-page suicide document. But that, just like the Columbine shootings, which was mentioned in this article, he was an insane person that misplaced his rage. And because of the kind of society we live in, that was like an obvious way, or a way that he was comfortable with misplacing his rage. Okay, so all that said, what does that have to do with monuments and like public memory? I think a lot of it has to do with like media. I think she's talking about media. I think she's talking about monumental art and how things transform through time, and I'm interested in those things. And I actually liked her work. Like, the pictures were pretty black and white and scanned, right? But I thought that was interesting. And like the work itself I thought was interesting. And I like work that's in public and not in galleries. I don't know why I have such an aversion to galleries, but I do. They really upset me. And I don't like the idea of selling stuff that I make, which is why this class is so important to me, and why I'm really interested in what comes out of this, like, from me, like, through this process of being in this class and reading these things and maybe making work, or at least trying to think about how I make work. I don't know. So I thought that was really interesting, but I sort of diverted myself from the reading with thoughts about, like, just like the specific kind of feminism, which can be kind of destructive, where it's predominantly white and it's still kind of intrusive and is used to do stuff like invade Afghanistan, you know? But the work that came out of it I think was interesting, and I think it was an anathema to how some of the media coverage was going down. And I thought that was probably good. This is total rambling nonsense. I'm so sorry. I'll probably come back to these then. Oh, and we're at 15 minutes, so this is already 2 parts. But I'll get the library one done tonight or tomorrow morning. I read it, I've just got to render and do all this stuff. So, okay, that's it for this. Bye.